do VODs like once a week. Or yeah, you like usually like once a week. Maybe I could. Yeah, I could just take a look at it now. This is just filler stuff basically. So I could just jump straight to it. I don't have any commands because I'm scuffed. Let's see. Yeah, because I mostly use the Twitter, or you can just, yeah, I drop it in chat. Nice. But yeah, I mostly just use the streaming as a way to kind of keep a little bit of edge with my coaching. Copy paste the invite as a fake bot. Alright, let's see what we're getting into. Is there any context I should know before getting into this? Zen, nice. Hmm, okay. Unfortunate. Okay. So your team is playing like a brawl spam hybrid. The BAP and the front line are a good combo. You combo well with pocketing the Genji. I think that was solid. Hanzo combos well with the Zarya. Overall, a pretty workable comp. It will be tough to rotate in because you don't have the Lucio. I think you win out still. Maybe you don't win the spam damage battle actually, which is going to be pretty troublesome because you don't actually have the Lucio to close the distance. So your win condition is probably going to be having to stack ultimates or... No, probably just stacking ultimates. I think you're probably going to have to go left side because I don't trust Zen to be able to rotate all the way to top right without a Lucio or a coordinated team. So you're probably just going to have to look for left side and look to slowly burn resources and hope that a DPS takes an angle. Good rotation. Good Discord target. You can move in more aggressively here. You're full health. Ryan is... I think he has enough shield health. Let's see. Oh, he does not have enough shield health. But either way, you have enough of an advantage that you can probably take positioning a little more aggressively here. Because you can check that Hanzo. Because, like if you look at this, kind of the issue that I'm thinking I'm seeing is that I'll jump back to a generous distance. I would have liked if there was some way to get an orb on this Genji. I don't know if you'd be able to get a sightline by taking an aggressive spot here, or maybe by waiting here. But I think the Genji on the off angle is pretty valuable. Yeah, you could have pushed up to here, probably. But then kind of what happens is you're going to see that your team basically just gets angled on because there's no counter pressure on the angles. So like your Genji kind of pops off because you guys landed some cooldowns on right side. Same with Hanzo. But then the issue here is, so like this is like a 4v3, so this should be winnable. But then what happens is now they have only spam heroes basically. So if you are just trying to take this spam battle, the longer it goes in, the more awkward things are gonna happen. Like you're giving them more opportunities to clutch, because like how do you let a Zen clutch? You give him space, right? So I think that yeah, your Rhine isn't exactly trustworthy. I wouldn't trust a random ladder Rhine too, but I think that you needed to put more pressure on these guys, because like their Hanzo getting your Hanzo, that's fine, but if you are like up here as soon as this Sigma's shield is down, trying to frag, I can't guarantee that it would work, but it could have worked. Because if you are up here charging in with your Rhine, yeah, you might just get picked off too, but at least there's a chance of you clutching, right? Because like if you're playing back passively, like you know that you are the one who has to step up here. Your DPS are dead. Your Rhine only has so much resource left. Enemy team is still there. It's probably a lost fight regardless. But like you know, you have to realize that it's just time for you to try and make the play, even if it doesn't work. Yeah, you almost landed some really good shots there. And especially as soon as these guys are backing up to here, that's your go time, man. Because as soon as they're back to there, that means that you can freely rotate to right here, kind of ish. Like you have like a little more wiggle room where you can where you can kind of find some spots where they don't have as good of sight lines to, right? Like it's kind of risky still, but you can kind of line up like a little more positions. Like there's a little more room for work. Of course, the ideal would be if your Rhine just chilled, because like he's going balls to the walls against a spam comp when he has no resources. Because he could have probably just kept this high ground, like if he just like went against the corner or something, but can't control everything. I assume Zarya and you just get run down. Nope, not quite. Nice rotation out. Hanzo feeds. That was bad from you. What were you doing? Trying to get greedy. Yeah, no, that was a bad rotation. I really liked the poke here, and I liked that you had like the very snipery shot. It looked very disciplined, and I respect that. But as soon as you started to get closer to here and reloading, that felt really shady to me. I think you needed to reload out of the sight lines, and then go in with your charging shot as a covering fire, and then rotate in with your Rhine. Like that lack of trust is kind of killing you here, because if you had just waited for Rhine, you probably could have rotated in for free. So I like the Lucio pick here. I think that's smart. Of course, I don't know how well it's going to work without comms and without decisive rotation, but yeah, it's not great, but if they're not engaging, it doesn't matter. Oh my gosh, bro, do not waffle around and choke like that. Yeah, that was kind of spooky for me, seeing you like kind of waddle back and forth and choke, because that's just like begging to get picked off when they have the Zen and Hanzo. I would have rather you just crossed here and then just chilled here, because then your amp aura still reaches across the choke. Not really a valuable boop. That was a better. I like that, booping it into the team. Wait for amp and then engage. Really, your Rhine should be stopping to get his resources back, but I would actually like if you go. I hope you go really aggressively on the Zen or the Hanzo here, because like this unit is gonna be kind of hard to handle. Yeah, that is true. I think you did amp your full HP team. I'm not looking at the amp so much because I do a lot more of the macro stuff, but Yeah, like you use the amp here for basically no reason. Like, yeah, you're speeding in, but not really decisively enough to need it. It's okay, man. Like, no shame in being where you're at. I don't know if you're trying to pick him up. I'm gonna coach him either. Yeah, I'm gonna coach it either way, but he's a fun hero though. But yeah, in theory, it's just uh like the fundamental is always speed when your team is doing something, heal when your team is not, amp when your team really wants to do something. And I think that your team did not really want to do something there because you actually preempted the amp before your team was moving. So make sure that you're waiting on the amp until your team is actually moving in, right? Because like once you see your Ryan like starting to engage here on the Sigma, that's when you amp. Because that's when he needs that boost. Because like here, your team is kind of like still in that starting phase, right? So like you're kind of it's like when you're in a foot race and you're starting to run before the starting shot is fired. So like make sure that you're waiting until like you're actually going in. The reason I say that you want to try to handle one of the Hanzos, or I mean not one of the Hanzos. Forbid that we see multiple Hanzos in a game. But Hanzo or Zen, I know it might sound kind of feeding-ish, but the logic here is that your team doesn't actually have any direct angle pressure right now, besides your Genji coming in. And I feel that you could probably play this, like if the Zen was here, I would say 100% no. If the Hanzo was like up here, probably not. But they're both in like kind of waffling around areas that also have cover for you to potentially work on. So we'll see what you do, but I think you could pretty easily help out your Genji with one of the kills and also get back to your team without feeding. Oh, get him. Nice. Good stuff. Just speed, yeah. Heal, heal, heal. Your team isn't doing anything. No reason for speed, man. You don't need the speed. You don't need the speed. Your team is chilling. You're not moving anywhere. Like, a lot of people just switch constantly back and forth and stuff. You just, like, for all practical purposes, you will almost always just need the heals when you're chilling. Like, yeah, you can do it a little bit, but... And, for the record, I'm not a Lucio specialist, so there might be some micro that I miss on that. But, so, yeah, it's fine, like, going to try and kill the Sig quick and stuff. Just as long as you're not sacrificing ult charge because of it. Oh, things are looking like they're going to get really sweaty. I think you're going to engage without a bunch of resources and basically int in, probably. Yep, there goes the resources, there goes the inting in, there goes the trance. Woo! Try fight. I mean, they did use 4 ults, so that's actually pretty good. I didn't realize that was their trance. I have no idea why they used... Oh, because your Genji used Blade. That's actually really valuable. Yeah, wait, that's actually really valuable. That's a huge trade. Rip. I don't like the amp there. I mean, let's look at your team HP bar real quick. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think you needed it. I mean, I can see why you did it, because like it's scary seeing all the critical symbols appear suddenly, but the thing is that you have to consider is how likely is it that you're going to be hit with follow-up damage, right? And it's moderately likely, because they do have Zen, they do have Hanzo, but for the record, healing isn't going to save you from Hanzo. Uh, and Zen maybe you'll be saved from. But you're behind cover right now, and you have a Rhine, and it's not the worst amp. I hope you wait to engage until you amp, like until you have it back again. Because if you engage before amp is back, I'm gonna mauled. Well, it's better safe than sorry. I would rather have him use the amp and stall out the fight by 12 seconds than have him get picked off by the spam comp and delay the fight by 20 seconds or however long a respawn timer is. I always forget. I still would not engage without amp, even with the Grav Dragons, just because they're a spam comp, and even like that small margin of closing the distance, even with the Grav Dragons, can be pretty lethal. And you know that they can't get trans back up regardless. I don't like you standing in choke here. I think I would have rather you just wall road over to here, because then you have a slight off angle on the shrines for shrine for damage, and you're not exposed to the spam, and you're healing the Rhine, right? Because your Rhine is just getting really hard pressured right now. And hey, this is when you needed that amp. So I am a little curious. Was Sleepy just standing still here? It's like if you look at the, yeah, so he's just kind of inted. Like if you're looking, so that, I mean that's what I was saying about the amp doesn't, unfortunately the healing doesn't save your Hanzo from, or anyone from their Hanzo. It's just the life of snipers. So you probably would have had to chill anyways. And what did Bap get hit by before the fire strike? As a Diamond Reinhardt, I approve of that statement. Oh, clipped by Hanzo arrow, presumably. It looked like it was just like a fire strike one shot, but yeah, from here you probably just need to reset. It puts you in an awkward situation because you can't actually kite back very easily without getting picked off even more by the Hanzo, and you can't stay here very well, but you also can't win the fight obviously without the dragons because that's like your main win condition. So I would say as long as you don't die here, I'm happy, but I don't know. It puts you in an awkward situation. You could potentially try and red it up to the Hanzo. Just this food for thought. I don't know if I love that idea just because Hanzo's at this rank with Storm Arrow can do phenomenally terrifying things. But okay, their Rhine feeds. I doesn't matter though because they have the 2 CP spawn advantage, but using the amp to cross open ground because he didn't want to go right. You mean like from here to here? Yeah, I respect that. And it's better to be careful with the duels than feeding. You can test the limits though a little bit, but I don't really mind. I think as long as the team is decisively moving, but then the problem is if you're on ladder, I don't think that the team is gonna wait here for you to get your amp back, and I think you really need your amp for this because this is like a dangerous damage tunnel. I think if I was like Overwatch League rotation, I would rotate up the stairs, amp to here maybe, and then just get amp back as we rotate across to here, and then probably engage from this room on the brawl because I think this closes the sightlines the best, and you can have someone like here for like a slight off angle. But the problem is I don't think you're able to coordinate multiple amps that well on ladder, like even like regardless of the rank. So I like to just put the gamble on the one and make it the valuable one. This is fine. Obviously I'm not going to say to not amp when you're in the middle of choke on half HP. Oh my gosh, your Zarya just saved you with the body block. I don't know if that was intentional from them or not, but if it was, they're a hero. Dragons, dragons, dragons. Where's the dragons? You're right. Sleepy kind of just vomited on that. I like that boop actually. I like that. I think that was a good boop into the team for the damage power. Yeah, I like the beat there because without the dragons, you need the beat to enable the aggression. I do not mind that. It was a little... I don't know if it was necessarily the best timing, but I like it enough that I'm not going to go and slap it around. Oh no, wait. He does not charge in, does he? Please tell me he doesn't charge in. No, you don't need to be on speed. You don't need to be on speed, man. Your Ryan could have his shield down and you could be healing him right now. Oh my gosh, no. The wall ride. Oh. That's unlucky. That was, yeah, that was rough. Let's see what we could have done better here. Just the enemy team's Sigma just absolutely feeds. I have no idea what he was doing. Their Rhine feeds on the aggro. Your BAP needs to be pushing up. He's staying way too attached to his wall. He's a little slow on that, but it doesn't matter much. Honestly, I would rather you have gone for the Hanzo here. Like, you're sitting here doing absolutely nothing. And, like, I think once your Rhine is here, he's full. He's using up his shield. There's nothing you can do about that. I think if you had seen this... Or, wait, he's not. He's on the outside. Actually, that's kind of too far. Was there an opportunity earlier you could have gone for him? No, okay, he was on the far flank. He's well positioned. The problem is Ryan is just sitting here not letting his shield regen when he has 2 healers on him. Like, he's sitting here with shield up and he's burning all this resource when he should know if he's a Diamond Ryan that there's another fight that's gonna have to happen. I think you could have been going aggro here with Reaper because like you're sitting here doing what, right? Like literally what? You see that the Ryan is not doing anything. So then why are you also not doing anything with him? If you see your teammates doing stupid stuff and not getting value, don't also do stupid stuff and not get value. Oh my gosh, I mean, Sleepy should have ulted ages ago. I don't know why he didn't ult right here, like into the spawn as they're respawning as soon as he saw the Zen rotate out. But you can't control the teammates. You can control that you're doing absolutely nothing right now, if I'm honest. Especially because you're on speed, so you're not even healing your BAP. But... And you shouldn't have been in the position to get rocked there, because you should have been probably up on the wall here to close off this angle, or over here helping Reaper and like going for a little bit of spam and then being like by cover. But you're just sitting waffling around in the middle. Like you gotta be a little more decisive with your positioning here and like more purposeful with what you're doing. Now you just gotta reset. Just die quick, get out. You're waffle. No. It's not gonna happen, man. Yeah, just die quick. It's like the suffocating you with the the pillow. Shh, sleep. Yeah, I recommend the Lucio Surf. They amp up the speed a ton, but it's pretty nice for just getting used to like the feel a lot more. Yep, just heal because your team isn't actually rotating yet. That Sigma's gonna run over your team. He's kind of scary to me. if you're able to call for it, I think that you probably should have called for a full rush on the Sigma as soon as he dropped, like bait him in and then rush. But I obviously don't know the level of the communication in this game, but leaving a flanking person behind can be really, really deadly. The call to leave Sig, okay. So as long as you outpace him getting to the flank, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, as long as you're outpacing his flank. Uh, no need for speed. Your team is not rotating. This is good wall running. Yeah, see, like this is what happens is your team. Look at this map control, or rather lack of it. You have their healers here, one of being a DPS, other being a full support. Your Brian, and all their DPS caught up to here. You guys waffled around in here for way too long. And while you don't have direct control over that, first of all, you could have been on the heal. I don't think it would have changed the outcome of this, but I think you needed to call for the, or like at least try to lead the more aggressive rotation there. Because if we watch this from the overhead here, like this is all fine for now, because like these guys are left in no man's land. I have no idea why your Reaper is over here still, and Sleepy must have fed again. But this is you guys still might be able to get another tick off this, right? Because if you just leave the Reinhardt here and rush their backline, genuinely, no one might get to point in an organized enough of a fashion to stop you from getting the tick, especially if you hold this corner and like just have Ryan toe the point. But you guys get distracted by this Reinhardt, and you could have probably gone in here and harassed their healers, because that at least would have kept their healing and the nade and stuff off of your team. I think there's more potential for better comms here potentially, or better like more aggressive play. Because like there's no out healing that, and like when your team gets angled, there's nothing you can do. So all you can do is prevent your team from getting angles by rotating faster, or by closing out the angles yourself, or like checking the pressure a bit, right? Wait, where? No, you just respawned. I was so confused for a second. I was like, why are we back on first point? Team gets farmed. That's just how it goes sometimes. Trouble of closing it out versus a spam comp, yada yada. Good. Yeah, it beat enough key targets. Would you have been able to save the Rhine if you had done it a little earlier? You mean right stairs like these right stairs? Or do you mean... Oh, you mean like the... Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just unlucky. Like, the problem is, like, people do this on, like, I'm trying to think of an equivalent. Like, Watchpoint Gibraltar, I think, has some like this. King's Row, people always go out into main instead of onto the high ground and stuff. Like, people will always just go in the most obvious course. I mean, I do it myself a lot of the times, even, and, like, yeah, it's just unfortunate. Frankly, I wouldn't bother calling it unless you have, like, a really communicative team. So, yeah, there's nothing you could have done about the BAP or the Lucio there, I'm going to be honest. But, I think you should have probably beat it as soon as your Zari, as soon as you got the shatter off. You shouldn't have well road here. I think you should have just gone for the beat, like, right there. I don't... Does Zarya bubble block beat? I just realized I don't know. I know it blocks, like, pulse bomb damage and stuff. And I know monkey bubble blocks then like I know like normal shields block beat. It can. Hmm. Yeah, and I guess. Oh wait, no wait, I'm a feeder. Wait, no, that's yours, Zarya. No, yeah, you should have gone for the beat here. I think you should have just gone for the beat. As soon as your Ryan hit the shatter, I think you should have realized that that he needs that like it's do or die time, or maybe even a little before he hit the shatter, like if he's talking about it or anything, just because your team needs that aggression now, right? You're not gonna save your beat for Overwatch 2, because now it's like, well, your main tank is down, you don't have the space yet, you're probably not gonna win this. That was a pretty good attempt for a clutch from Reaper. He got one pick out of it, which is unfortunately not more, but um I don't love the boop. I don't think it really matters what you boop at this point. But yeah. So overall, not terrible. Your Lucio is kind of scuffed, but like you said that as an expectation going in. And like I said, it's okay to be wherever you're at. So we'll have to see how the next one goes. And like that's definitely a winnable point in terms of progress. That wasn't like a bad offense. It got progressively worse and worse as time went on, but Zenyatta. Mm. What sightlines are you looking for from this spot? Are you just looking for this one initial snipe here? Okay. I guess I'll see where you rotate to, because that's what I'm curious to. Because I like this. I like the shot angle. I think it's a lot better than like the one here, because this one's like a lot harder to time correctly. But I'm curious to see how you rotate safely across. Downwards rotation. I like that. That was a really good rotation. Well played. I'm probably gonna watch this at 0.75 because I feel like this is gonna be interesting. I like Zenyatta play a lot. I actually don't feel like you need to be putting Harmony on here right now. I think you should be still looking at Choke. Because if you think about it, your BAP is still over here focusing on healing your team. And the DPS aren't actually actively doing things. But what was happening is, well, that's kind of funky looking. But, yeah, I think it's good to have it always up for ult charge and to enable Sleepy. But then I feel like you don't need to do that until the enemy team is actively engaging. Because right now they're not doing any return poke either, right? They're just basically looking to rotate. I think that your poke on this angle might be more valuable here. Because if we look at what's passing by here, like obviously this is just thoughts on maybe what could be happening rather than exact fact. But I want to see what happens while you were looking over to put the orb on him. So right here, Ana and Ryan are rotating. You look away. Yeah, that's what I thought I saw. Hanzo gets to rotate in for free. I don't know if you would have hit the shots on the Hanzo, but I think potentially landing the shot on the Hanzo. I don't remember his exact conversion of ult charge from the shots versus healing. They're both 1-to-1, right? So that's the thing, is it's not peeking him because you already had this angle and they're walking into you. So like there's a difference between when you have the sight lines versus don't. So like when you're on defense, the meaning of defense is that you have the map control and you can choose where you're fighting. So you can choose the angles that you're taking and stuff and have the zones under your control. But then the offense can choose when. So if they're walking into your sight lines, it doesn't matter if they're a Smurf. You have a massive advantage because you can do the crosshair placement. Uh, they have to move their crosshair significantly more than you. They have a smaller gap to hit the target, and yeah, you can like jiggle peek and stuff. You can change up your position a little bit, like toy around with some angles, go for like here and like snipe through this gap to here. Like you have a little more options. I don't recommend like dueling the Hanzons and like point blank, but I think if they're walking in and trying to rotate, you had an opportunity maybe to land a little more shots. That's maybe a little more valuable. I think it's good to put the orb on them as soon as the enemy team is done rotating. But you only saw half the enemy team rotate, right? So you know that the other half is still rotating and vulnerable. Like you have to kind of think of Zen similar to Widowmaker in terms of like obviously you're not going to want to just take the duels versus Smurfs, but if you play smarter than them and like have the trap set out beforehand, even if it doesn't catch them every time, you can still spring the trap occasionally. And like your damage is honestly your utility a lot more than your healing, and you're going to get the BAP window as a faster and more useful ult than trance. So I would almost rather leave the healing for BAP until he has window or is close to it, just because it's so impactful to have an early window. That's like a really micro thing, but that's fine. I like that orb, obviously. He's critical, and he's actually on an angle. I hope this is a really good angle, but I'm interested to see how you rotate to not get killed by the Hanzo or Zen. If Hanzo stays at this angle, I really like your position here. Their Sigma is making a very much me kind of play. This is like what I would do on Sigma, where I go and solo flank. Uh, I like his guts. I don't think he's making the right play because he doesn't have the team support. I think I don't like looking this way at the Sigma. I think I would have liked you to sit here looking at the Hanzo as you rotate. Like if you are trying to rotate to help your Kree, I think you would need to sit there and like put some covering fire on the Hanzo, right? Because if you land even like one headshot, Hanzo is going to have to back off. I guarantee it. So you could have discorded him too, like real quick. It's unlikely he would get the one headshot. Obviously, I don't know how good he was. I know he's good, but I think your mistake here is turning away though. Your Kree is probably not gonna be in a position to put on orb. I think what you should have done is just stay here because you can actually see if he's too far up from here because you can see his outline and like just peek it for a moment, and if he's not in the doorway, then you just back out. But by like going all the way up here and turning this way, that's a lot more dangerous than just rotating into here while shooting the Hanzo or just directly dueling him, frankly. Like you need to be looking at these threats because Zen's covering fire is pretty potent. Kree somehow outwits the Sigma anyways, so kudos to your Kree. He's probably going to need heals now though, so I would try and look over... Actually, I don't... No, that's fine. I don't love that you're going so wide to do it, but... I actually want you to look for an angle on Widow. Let's see, is there an angle that you can get? Does this one work? I think she might see your toes if you do this one. But if you set up the shot, let's see. Yeah, she might see your toes, but if she's not looking for your toes, I don't think she would see them. Yeah, so like it's advantageous to like you're in a great position against the Widow, but then here's the question. Who's going to deal with the Widow now? Like who is going to deal with the Widow now on your team with Sleepy dead and Sigma dead? Is there anyone else but you who has the range to handle it? So, like, this puts you in a really uncomfortable situation, because really I would have rather had Sigma here, probably, and Sleepy playing a little closer to where you are. I think maybe you should. I'm not gonna, like, shove this in your face as fact, but I want you kind of thinking about this, because you know that an extremely lethal character at a high rank with a high rank player is on an off angle, and you know that you have no one able to check that pressure from the off angle except you. And while it's technically fine if your team somehow manages to finagle it, I almost guarantee your BAP gets picked off by the Widow after this, and maybe probably Kree too, and then the enemy team just runs over your Rhine. Okay, they run over the Rhine anyways, but... yeah, maybe she's not the best Widow, but I still think you should have taken the chance to kill her. Because I don't know... maybe you could... I don't love peeking just straight up on the bridge, just because it's like a little too exposed to like here and here and here. Like this is what I would do, and you do not want to do what I would do, because I am a plat support, not a diamond slash masters slash GM range support for like lobbies like this. So I think you should take what I would do and not do it. So I like that. I think this is maybe the best angle you would have been able to get. Like with a crouch, I think it might work. It's still a little dicey. But I think you should have been looking for the opportunity to at least take a shot on her, especially if you just stayed here even. If she just rotated a little too far, like let's see if she actually did that. She might have taken too many steps to the side at some point. Actually, she started too far to the side, and then, yep. Look at this. If you were right looking here, you might be able to finagle a pixel view if she comes a little closer. Okay, no, she has a little more positioning discipline than that. Oh, nope, there it is. There it is. There it is. That would have been the shot that you could have hit. Yeah, so whenever you have a bad player on your teammate, your three options are these. So you have the you have the flame them now. So you have put extra resources into them, like which is like what you're doing, which is like which I admire, because like a lot of people will just choose a different option, which is the second option of give no resources to the bad player, or like significantly less, and put the resources elsewhere. And then there's the third play, which I think is usually the one that you always want to do, like regardless of the player, is complement their play, right? So what is Ryan good at doing? Not this Ryan specifically, but like Ryan as a hero. No wrong answers. Just like toss a thought out there. Corners, yeah. Yeah. So like he's good at the corner. He's good at the single point of pressure, right? Yeah, holding a choke. Yeah. So the reason, like the weakness of the brawl is that if you take an off angle, it basically crumbles because it's putting a lot of resources into pressure on a single angle. So what you're doing here, by spamming into main with your Ryan while the Widow is here, yeah, she doesn't hit her shots, but I think by not checking it, it's about the same as walking through main. Like the same equivalent of just running through main while they have like a Hanzo here, and a Sigma and a Risa here, and a Zen here too, and like an Ashe over here or something. Like you're surrounded on all sides, and as soon as you're inside the fishbowl, that's when you lose. You always want to be on the outside of the fishbowl. So you are on the outside of the fishbowl. You had perfect positioning here. I'm just gonna say I was really happy with how conscientious you were with your angles, except for that one time where you like went and like looked this way instead of like while moving in aggressively and not looking where you're going. That's like driving a car really fast with your eyes closed. Not good. But other than that, like you had really conscientious positioning, and I respect that a lot. But the problem is you have to recognize that your Rhine is now inside the fishbowl, and you're going to have to bail him out. So the thing that's going to bail him out of the fishbowl is not hammering on their hardest angle, like on their one with the most resources. Like that's like just smacking sledgehammers together and hoping something happens. Like you need like the more refined approach here, and that's going to be to take out the weakest angle or at least pressure it to, because if you even force Widow off of this angle, like just to drop down, suddenly that's so much less pressure on your BAP and Hanzo and Ryan, or Hanzo is dead, right? But I think you have to think about this map control and play to complement your Ryan more rather than to compensate. So your team kind of loses because they get the angles and a lot of pressure in main. Sleepy kind of inted. I have no idea how your Sigma died, but it probably wasn't in a healthy manner. I like this spot, Zen. Where would you like? Where are your options here for positioning a Zen? Just in orientation to this point of view. So you're on right side right now. Like on the crow's nest, you mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other options? Okay, well, yeah. So hypothetically, I think you also technically have here, though this is a really garbage position. I'm just saying it as an option, just because you can't rotate out of it safely. I like this one too, as like an aggressive counter pressure angle, but you're also getting weak to getting rushed down. But it also closes off the most angles, and it closes you off to dive the most. This is my favorite spot, so I think this is a good choice. But I want you to like recognize the pros and cons of this. Is it is open, it is more easily accessible to flankers, and because like they can come from bottom or here or like here, or like they can kind of finagle around these pillars and stuff, while here they're only going to come from this basically. And then the important thing that you just touched on is the snipers. So if you're here, you have to be really aware of the snipers, because they're going to come to here, they're going to come to there it is here. They're going to come to here and get a sight line on you. They're going to come to down here. You're exposed to a lot of angles there. So I think your positioning is strong. So I'm hoping that you're smart about like which angles you're exposing to yourself at a time. Because if you're not looking at the angles you're exposing yourself to, or if there's like too many, things could crumble really quick. Don't chase him. He's just going to grab Mega, or if he's not, he's going to come back up begging for you. Or no, actually I don't mind. No, it's fine, because he's feeding and the enemy team hasn't engaged yet, so that's actually fine. You're looking at main again. You're drifting into open ground against the snipers. You're sitting in main against the snipers, shooting out a Rhine shield. So like, that's good. I like that you're taking, so see, now that you're on the off angle again, you're getting these meaty shots on the Zen. And you can also take like these pot shots at this Hanzo now that you have the vertical cover. But like you kind of just like drift into here, and like that gave them a gap for options. So like here's the thing. Are you going to have better luck discording the tank in main head on where they're putting their shields, or from this slight off angle, even if it's like smaller windows, where he's not going to be angling his shield towards. Like, I think you still probably would have had better luck with the Discord um, if you had just stayed on the angle a little bit. Or, like, if you really wanted to get aggressive with it, you could actually probably look for here. This is actually a really good position, in my opinion, for, like, an aggro play. Because it gives, like, you a perpendicular angle to his shield and, like, people playing in. And it closes off these sniper angles and lets you focus purely on Mega Pack. And, it's a little dicey because you can't easily get back to your team without exposing yourself because you have to jump up on these boxes to get back over, or you have to like take this long rotate around. But okay, I like that. If that's your thought process, I like that. As long as you're thinking about it. As long as you're just not on top of point. that scares me when they have the snipers. Good orb placement. I like that you have the orb on the Ryan when he's going into the aggro. He's probably going to need all the heals he can get. I like the stairs position here, but I don't know why you're shooting the Rhine when these are the threatening things. Because the thing is what is more important to pressure out? The short-range Reinhardt with Nano, who's getting heals pumped into him? Or the things that will actually kill your team a lot faster, which are the Hanzo and Zen? Like, what demands counter pressure? What is more dangerous? I know it's like a little tough because the Nano Rhine is pretty dangerous, but yeah. I don't think it's bad, but I think it's misplaced. Because look at him, like now looking, or well, you can't see my finger pointing at my screen, but look at look at him looking at you. You need counter pressure to counter pressure, right? Because so pressure is damage, damage is pressure. The ways that you deal with pressure are avoiding it, negating it, or counter pressure. Because if there's two pressures meeting, one of them is going to have to give, and it becomes like kind of a mechanics battle and like a prep battle and like who is aiming there first. But it's better than nothing. So you could either avoid this angle by just staying here, which is fine. Then you can shoot the Ryan or whatever. But I still think that you could provide this counter pressure by like charging up an orb shot here and just hammering these dudes. I guarantee you could have sniped the Hanzo. I 100% guarantee it. Doesn't matter his rank. Because if you just charged up your orbs here and went for the pre-placement, you know that they're sitting there. And I guarantee you would have hit him or the Zen. They're stacked up like fools. And like the Rhine is not dangerous to you. He might be dangerous to your team, so you can toss an orb on him, but you're probably not going to get the kill. And they're not as dangerous. Yeah, like you got to look for these playmaking plays. And even now, as you like, even now you're sitting here not looking at these dudes in your peripheral, shooting at a Rhine shield instead of the Hanzo. Stop it! You're killing me here. This is like the dance with the two lovers or whatever that can never meet or something. Like you're sitting here like barely passing by and like like you're scared of this guy, and I think it's okay to be scared of the dude, but I think you need to recognize when you have this positional advantage. Because now you don't because he's looking at you, and now you're in an awkward position where you don't have much cover, and now he gets away. Fortunately, your Widow gets a really relevant pick on the Rhine there, and the enemy team must have fed at some point because they're all dead and backed out because of window. But battlefield cover. But honestly, it is because you can actually provide cover fire for yourself. Like this is the thing is a Hanzo or a Zen can't actually peek this and snipe you behind the BAP window to some extent, because if they do, if depending on your mechanics, you can just frag them. So yeah, it's not like cover, but it is covering fire, and that is pretty useful too. Oh, I like this sideline. This is really nice. That was a really good look for a snipe. I like the opportunistic spirit there. I do want you resetting here in case, because now you should know that their snipers are coming back. If you want to be closer for the trance, by the way, I do think that the right side is still better. Because as long as they don't rush through right, you're basically fine. And if they do rush through right, you can actually just kind of duck back into spawn. And either they rush past you, and then you can come back out and shoot them from the flank. Or they just sit here kind of chilling. Or they try and push you in and just get jammed here. I don't think it's bad. I mean, we'll see how you deal with it. Because, like, the problem with right is if they come right and your team doesn't meet it and you rotate across point, that's when it's a feed. I think that your team either needs to match the pressure here, like in right side, or you need to rotate backwards. So you do rotate backwards here? Oh, like to behind point. Yeah, no, that's bad because then you just get trapped again. Yeah. So like that's why I prefer left side is it has more intuitive places to kite to. If you're under pressure, you can go to here, you can go to here, you have spawn. But like note that when you're on right side and under pressure, a lot of the times you will end up just going like ducking back to spawn. So like I think you have to like consider that as a resource here. Because it is a passageway. It's a path. I don't like that you're on right side and not watching right side. Because, like, what's the point of being here as opposed to being here? Are you getting any advantage? Yeah. And I mean, yes, you get to orb the DPS, but hey, now you can orb Sleepy here still. And like the only advantage I can think of is you get Discord on Sigma, but Sigma isn't that realistic of a kill target. I think it's okay to be putting the orb on the Kree here, but as long as you rotate back here, because like it's really scaring me if you're not looking over to the right side. Yeah, this is terrifying me. Yeah, this is too late, too late, too late, too late. By the time you look, this is way too late. Because now you're out of position, you don't have your clear rotation backwards, or even to here to like have like a little more spacing. Yeah, this is in rushdown range, and yeah, he has no support. But if you had been here, you actually might have been able to duel the Rhine, or at least like pressure out his shield, because he doesn't have that much resources yet. But like now that you're here, you're in a really uncomfortable situation because hey, look where you are. Inside the fishbowl, man. Between the Sig, between the Rhine, between the Zen, between the Widow. Your team is not inside the fishbowl yet. You are. And that is not where you want to be. Not on flankers, not on snipers, not on tanks. You always want to be outside the fishbowl. That was a really good reflexive trance, and I'm a worse player would not have gotten it off, but I think I would have rather you actually rotated behind him with the trance and gone for a really aggro play. Because what are they going to do if, like, what do you think they would do if you did that? Like, if you went behind them with the trance? I think you had enough time on the trance. Let's see. I just want to check to make sure that you had enough time on the trance. But what is the yeah? So what is if the Ana is dueling you? What are they not doing? So yeah, you had plenty of trance time. Exactly, they're not healing the Rhine, and your Rhine is getting the heals from your BAP. So if you had repositioned to here, you have two advantages. One, you're in the safe position again. Two, you're taking resources away from the enemy. You either frag out here and kill the Ana, or she ignores you, and then you frag out and kill her, and then kill the Rhine. Like, either way, you frag out and kill people. Because the Rhine cannot touch you if you go behind here. So as long as you have any faith in your mechanics, I would hope that as a Master Zen you can out-mechanic an Ana anyways, but like you can consider it as more of a reposition, because what's actually going to get more valuable, like more value here? Healing the Bap who is now inside the fishbowl against things that you can't out-heal, or removing the targets of pressure entirely. Because guess what? As soon as you remove these two, guess who isn't in the fishbowl? Your Sigma, you, Rhine, and honestly kind of McCree, but he's also just in a really awkward spot. So like, remember, removing the angle is often going to be a lot more valuable than just playing to survive it. Because if you play to survive it, like this is the same thing people do in King's Row point A defense, is they get backed into these corners while trying to avoid these angles. And like some point, you do need to take a stand. It doesn't matter what hero you're on. Unless you're maybe Mercy, I guess then you don't really need to take a stand. Because like now you're stuck here inside the fishbowl. You're going to get run over by someone probably. Yeah, and then you die. I think that was a critical misplay that you could not afford. Like the two facets of it being, you had one chance of staying in here and watching the flank and rotating back in time, or two, you could have gone for the clutch with the trance. It was a beautiful trance, but I think that you were just maintaining the status quo when you needed to do more than that, because like you were too slow in recognizing the map control from the enemy team. I think the two things I would want you to focus on are looking for opportunities for more aggressive plays. Like, you don't need to be, like, feeding and, like, taking duels against, like, these top 500 dudes and snipers, but I want you thinking about it at least. Like, you don't even have to do it. You don't even have to do it. But if you at least think, hey, I could use this chance to reposition here, or, hey, I could position to watch these angles, that's, like, enough for me. And then, of course, the other thing is going to be watch the people who are the most dangerous. Watch the angles that you're exposed to. Because main is almost never going to be as threatening as the angles. You don't lose to main. You never lose to main. If you lose to main, you are in silver. That's just a fact. Any questions or clarifications or anything? Thanks, man. I hope it gave some useful tips. Yeah, sure. So, I'll just kind of go to find a moment here when it's overhead. Oh yeah, so Overwatch University is where I used to do some VOD reviews. A lot of the people are, I'm not going to say not qualified, but they don't put in the studying required to give in-depth answers. They don't understand the philosophy enough. Like, you can get a lot of, like, kind of micro-ish things and fragments, but there aren't that many people on there with the depth of knowledge needed. Like, you need to go to more specialized coaches usually for that. I'm not a more specialized coach yet. I happen to have a lot of the knowledge because I work with Coach Spilo a lot, so I've learned a lot from him because I'm one of his mods, and I ask a lot of questions from dudes like don't usually read list rank, so I was like, try it. Yeah, no, that's Pepega. Yeah, I think it's a good choice to not list rank because I think it intimidates people. I think like if you're submitting it to a reviewer, it's good to have ranks sometimes, but it's also kind of entertaining to see what they think of it. Really? Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that then, because I'm most definitely not a 4300 player. I just have a decent strategic mind. So the never lose to main thing is the reason that you never lose to main is that actually do you care if you have the chat in this? So I'm gonna post this on my YouTube if this is fine, just to like have the VOD. It's like Black Dragon 30 or something on YouTube. But do you care if you have the chat record here? Because I'm gonna be able to see the chat, but I'm thinking, okay, so I'm gonna go into Paint actually here and draw some really scuffed stuff because I think it's gonna be easier than showing it on the map. Paint drawing. Okay, here we go. So I'm just gonna draw my favorite little T shape here. Where's my mouse? Here it is. Here's my favorite depiction of main. So for the sake of simplicity, I'm only showing 2 lanes. Basically, every Overwatch map has 3 lanes, though. I know Natter talks about that a lot, but so let's say this is the well, shoot, that's supposed to be black. This is the objective, right? And enemy team. Get over here. Where's my arrow? Enemy team is coming through here, right? This is main. So, where intuitively is your team going to dedicate the most resources? Yeah. Like, intuitively, you will dedicate the most resources to where the enemy is dedicating the most resources, right? Because main is actually not like a map dependent thing. It's like I mean, like there's no place in the map that is officially main. It's just main is wherever the enemy team is putting the most pressure. And that's usually going to be where the tanks are because tanks are the best equipped to negate pressure, right? Because remember, pressure has to be avoided, negated, or countered. So if you're on tank heroes, like in a double sniper meta, like that Hog Zarya or no Hog Sig Hanzo Widow meta, that was basically all just counter pressure, like taking like small short angles and stuff because you didn't have much ability to negate pressure in the Hog and the Sigma, just to counter pressure and avoid pressure. But if you have the ability to counter or to negate it with shields or healing or whatever, then you'll usually invest that in main because that's where the enemy's team largest source of pressure is. But now, what happens if so let's say that this is an equal and opposite force from your team, right? Kind of physicsy, right? So we have these 2 equal and opposite forces here, and they meet in equilibrium. Well, I made the arrow the wrong color, but so now what happens if non-negated force is applied from the off angle here? Like what happens to the equilibrium? Yeah, exactly. So it's influenced. So now the equilibrium, if this is like a dangerous target, your equilibrium point might be like well, it'll be pushed into somewhere really awkward, or you just lose it entirely because suddenly there's no negation of this pressure. So ideally what you want is you want to apply an equal pressure, right? I know it's a smaller arrow, but let's pretend it's equal pressure. But you want equal pressure, right, to handle the opponent's pressure. So the reason that I say you never lose to main is because your team, I guarantee you, is going to be putting all of their pressure onto main to counter it, on ladder anyways. Like now let's say all your team is investing all the pressure into the one off angle. Then what happens? Assuming that the enemy team is still positioned in the same way where there's the one dangerous target on the off angle and then the whole rest of the enemy team is in main. Attention is split, but where's our attention? Our attention is all here, right? So what happens then on main, or quote unquote main? Yeah. So that's the thing is I say then you would lose to main if you like misattribute your resources. But then uh the thing is people will naturally attribute their resources to the most pressure zone, like the zone of the highest pressure, because it's just kind of like human nature. But then let's say what happens if we actually go over to here, like completely ignoring this, and then remove the enemy threat. So this is gonna take forever if I try to manually erase it. Um, I have an idea. That doesn't work. Uh, Solid color white. This isn't working. Ah, this is why I'm scuffed at paint. Okay. Oh wait, here we go. Ha! I'm a genius. Okay. So what happens if you remove that pressure there? And actually, let me remove this. Sorry, this is taking so long, but so we remove the pressure on the off angle, and then we and now we're here, right? Where's the equilibrium, kind of? Like where are we gonna meet the two teams? Yeah. So now it's gonna be like here, and this is basically fine because we're still on the outside of the fishbowl. So what you can do basically is you can kill the off angle if it's mistimed, because like if you rush down the one isolated guy, so that's like what I was saying with the sigma, is if you like had rushed down the sigma, then you don't have that off angle behind you. And yeah, you might be a little delayed or something, but at least that sigma is back in main, and now you don't have to worry about that off angle pressure negating it. But if they timed it so that they rushed us right when we had turned to deal with this guy, we would have been just blown up. It's like a really difficult game of timing, pressure, and angles. Does that help explain it? I know that was really convoluted, but like you don't lose to main because that's where resources are naturally dedicated. Because main is wherever the most resources are dedicated. So you only lose to where you're not dedicating resources is I guess the best way to put it. Uh yes. Yes. So that's why everyone loses to Bastion at like low ranks is because they just have all the frontline pressure and everybody still tries to play the frontline into it, right? So then instead of being like two equal sized arrows, you have just like this massive Bastion colored arrow pointing at main. Yeah, main should not be lost because it would be your fault for not forcing angle pressure. And yeah, it's naturally gonna be like a job of the off tank is generally the most like powerful for dealing with off angles because they can actually negate the pressure. But you can contribute to it with counter pressure on Zen, on Lucio, even with dueling, on DPS. Um, Even like Brig whips can counter pressure versus like a tracer or something. BAP has the firepower to check angles. Obviously, BAP, you have to be a little more careful because then you can't heal your team if you're looking the opposite direction. I think Spilo did a good review on that recently, and he said that I'm smart, which made me feel good. But but basically the idea is that if a fight isn't linear, you can't deal with it linearly. Like every pressure needs to be met or you will lose. And on the same note, if the enemy team isn't using off angles, you can actually use them yourself and then give your team that advantage. Like on Zen, you're not going to be going on like hard flanks, like over here or whatever. But you could take like a soft angle, like right here, and then you can still get back to your team kind of and chill and frag out from the side. Like this is like that aggressive sides position that I was saying. But does that kind of help explain it? I think you summarized it well with your stuff there in the chat. Or let me switch over to Overwatch view again so that it says it in the chat maybe. No, it doesn't, but well, there. I summarized the thought enough in the chat that there's some record of it at least. But yeah, I think dinner calls me. So unless there's anything else, I'm gonna call it a day. Feel free to ask questions in the Discord too, man. I'm always up for like discussion or thoughts or anything like that. Good times. Anyways, thanks for coming and dropping in a code. I always enjoy reviewing some more high-ranked player stuff because you can get into like some of the more complex macro and stuff. Ooh, yeah, nice. All right, and with that, I will bid you adieu.